there. There are many women waiting for Prince Charming or the knight in shining armor to come save them. But unfortunately, women have been duped. That woman's expectation rarely is met in their lives. You see, many women have been duped. And you're gonna say, what am I talking about? Well, girls, and I'm not here to make men feel bad, because I like men. But I need to say that women have been duped, because based on the woman's nature, the woman is a feminine. And through the feminine energy, she is part of the earth. And being part of the earth, you have the qualities of being a nurturer. You are loving, you are kind, you have your creativity, you are a multitasker. You are assigned with multiple roles. The thing with men, it's the complete opposite. And if you know scientifically, we're not the same breeds. I don't say it. It's science. There are lots of differences between men and women. Now, when I'm talking in my videos, I am not out there condemning men. I need to say though that the majority of men are incapable of providing the love that a woman requires, because it's not in their innate nature. Men are completely different. Men have a really difficult time when it comes to expressing emotions. That's why we get a lot of conflicts in relationships. Men have learned to operate through their biological nature, which is through their dominance and through their control. Men have been conditioned to operate that way, and women have been seeking for eons to try to find what is the trick to be able to be with a person that can actually understand them. Women are constantly divorcing, and statistics-wise they say that it is always the woman usually that initiates a divorce. So obviously her needs are not being met, and I am afraid to disappoint a lot of women here, and this is why I bring my videos, so I can give women to get into the awareness that what you're asking for is a big miracle, and that big miracle will need to come for yourself first of all. I don't want to shatter your dreams, but you need to understand something and listen to it very carefully. A lot of men are not in a position to do a lot of personal development. Men are operating usually from their egoic nature. You cannot change that. That's the way it's always been. It takes a man with a lot of discipline to be able to understand how they are operating. Most men are incapable of going to that place. And you need to understand that if you look at statistics, it is mostly the women that go and receive psychological help. Men, on the contrary, and statistics-wise, they don't go to get help. And we also know that because when men have a problem, they usually keep it within themselves, whereas we women, we go to find the solution to get help if we reach that level. So you're asking to find a person that is going to give you your needs, but you need to understand that there is a very, very low chance that you're ever going to be able to find what you're looking for. The only way, and it's a lot of hard work, that you will find that man to meet your needs is if you yourself have worked relentlessly on yourself and have overcome your shadow aspects and all of the bad qualities that you bring within a relationship. The only way would be if you realize what manipulation tactics men are using and you have decided to change that chapter of your life. You see, the problem with women is that they are duped because they don't understand that for most males, it's a game out there and they know how to play. And a lot of them have gotten away with murder because men know exactly what they're doing. Most of them are not looking for love. Some of them are, depending where they are in their life and what type of a man it is. We have a man that is not such a great asset, and then we have a man that is an amazing asset. So it depends. We have different categories of men. We have different breeds, we have different species, we have different animals of men. So you need to be able to discern what type of creature you're dealing with. And most men are pigs. I'm afraid to say that. They are. Just like men say that most women are emotional creatures and they're overly dramatic and they're overly needy, it's the same with men. It takes a lot of work to understand what men are. And a lot of women might despise me for it, and a lot of men might despise me for it. But the truth is, there are hidden things within everything. Most people do not know the meaning of real love. Because if they did know the real meaning of love and they were operating from a place of love, they would be open to embrace the fact that they are operating on a false persona, and they would actually show the people exactly who they are. You see, most people in this life are not authentic. And when you're not authentic, it's impossible for you to be able to express your real emotions. It's impossible for you to show exactly how you feel. And because you're used to having a mask, you want to show to the other person that you're this magnificent person and you have all these wonderful things to give. But if they really were capable of giving that type of love, then why is it that when a woman goes to express her feelings and her emotions, she always gets invalidated, or she's not allowed? She's often said to be over emotional. They do so many things. Men are most of the times unwilling to communicate. They often gaslight a woman. Some of them are bums. Some of them just lack ambition. They just go out drinking and doing all these petty stuff. Like, they don't really have stuff to bring to the table. Most of them, when you talk to them, they don't actually take the time to listen. They are inattentive to what you're saying. They might be busy like on their phones or not willing to make that conversation. Some of them are very abusive, whether emotionally abusive or physically abusive. A woman might have achieved stuff in her life, and a lot of them might not be actually happy of the stuff that she has accomplished, because a lot of them, due to their biology, they're very competitive in nature, so they can't really be happy when a woman perhaps is achieving much more than them. They see it as competition because this is the way they've been conditioned to. This is the way of the patriarchy, and this is the way of the biology of a man. It's all about control and dominance. It's in their nature. You can't blame them for being that way. This is the way that they are. But we can blame them that they do have the choice, if they wanted, to change these things within them. It's a really hard thing for a man to do, but it is not something that it's not achievable. We see a lot of men constantly projecting their insecurities onto women, and a lot of women are not able to see that because they themselves, the women, also lack in personal development, and they can't see what is healthy and what is not healthy. A woman often is in competition with other women, whereas she should not be, because other women out there should be her support. But you see, a lot of men have made women be competing with one another with everything that they did throughout the centuries. Because men like to play games, they can sometimes enjoy watching a woman protruding her jealousy and her insecurity. They don't have a way of being able to soothe her from feeling all of those feelings. A woman has been really left with emotional neglect. And I'm not talking about all women, but most women out there. A lot of men are playing games with them and they're not valuing their time. They can hang them on relationships like for years, and the women are still sitting there and not breaking off the relationship. They're not seeing the signs that a man is just keeping them there. Because when a man really wants to invest his time and he really wants to be with you, statistics show that they can know within the first maybe 6.5 months. So it depends on a lot of factors, because maybe a man might be working in his career and all of those things. But let that not be a joke, okay? If a man has found their person, they will do anything to keep that person. And I mean anything. But many women do not see the signs. They are blinded by the chemicals in their brains, and they remain in situations that are unhealthy for them. A lot of men try to convince them that they're delusional and they're the problem, which most of the times it's not like that. It's just the way that the man is manipulating them to believe all those things. Another thing men do is that they can criticize them, they can make fun of them, and sometimes they can make that appear as a joke, and that is manipulation. That is not something that is loving to do to a person. There are many men out there that like to control things, and they like to keep their woman to themselves, so they try to isolate her from her friends, from her family. There's different things and different dynamics that are happening in relationships. A lot of the times, women have been brought on this planet to be an assistance to the man, and I don't mean that coming from the Bible times. What I mean is that a woman gives all of her creativity because it's in her, the creativity, and it's something that's not easily available within the man. And usually a woman is, with all that creativity, she has, let's say, a lot of input to give to a man. And many times a woman can give beautiful advices to men, but they're not in the position to acknowledge them. Or on the contrary, they can also get all of the input, the creative input that a woman can give them, and they can use it for their selfish gains. And a lot of times women don't get the credit for that. And women just let the man believe what he believes, because they're not really egoistic in their nature like a man, and they're not controlling, and they're not competing with things. Most of the times, most relationships with men is that women give more than they take, and the men don't give back as much. Most of the times, men do not really prioritize the relationship. They can prioritize other things, their work and all of that. A lot of the times the men can be playing the victim in relationships, and they might do some actions and they fail to take responsibility. A lot of time women can tell a man that she's bothered by something, and they constantly do stuff to overstep her boundaries. A lot of men can be very pessimistic, and they might have a negative outlook in life. Many men do not have it in their nature to be romantic, whereas women can be. But what happens with women is that she might have tried many, many times and it's not reaping any rewards, so automatically she gets to shut down. Or the man places a lot of boundaries and she might not have the strength to break those boundaries, those walls that the man had put up. Many men withhold affection because they're not so physically ready and intimate to meet a woman. And women is the nurturer, remember, so she's the one that is much more capable of doing that. But men can, if they learn to work on their dominant side. A lot of men are controlling. We said that. They're always trying to dictate people's actions, what to do, what not to do, what is wrong, what is right. They usually can have a lack of empathy. And they have a lack of empathy because they fail to understand where the other person comes from. They usually are the ones who care about their own feelings, and they don't want to see the feelings of their partner. They can be not supporting their woman emotionally. When it comes to an argument, men usually try to run, and they don't like to deal with problems, so they avoid conflicts, and they don't even have great conflict resolutions. So they're not diplomatic in that way. We know that they're quite stubborn, and they're usually not open to compromise. A lot of men break their promises. They don't keep their words. Many of them are dishonest, and they can't face the truth. They usually lie, or they withhold truths, or they say what is convenient for them, because they fail to take accountability. Many men we see don't really appreciate women's efforts. A woman can be doing everything. She takes most of the emotional labor in the relationship. She cooks, she cleans, and all of those things. And a man rarely comes to embrace and say thank you with everything that she is contributing. They often take her for a ride. They don't appreciate her efforts. A lot of men can also be dismissive towards a woman. They ignore a lot of things that a woman might have to say, not validating the feelings, and they don't care about any concern or problem that she has. Most of the couples out there, they might even not have the same interests, so they might not have anything in common. Many men can be quite judgmental. They might always be finding faults in the women, or they might be hypercritical towards her. They also, usually most of them don't have the capacity to be able to make her feel special. So they might forget about her on special dates, even her birthdays or anniversaries and stuff like that. And some women take that at heart. Most men avoid commitment, and if they're in a game, they don't have the decency to be able to admit and be clear about the future or their intentions. So if they're looking for a woman just to have a good time, they can string them along, not caring about the consequences and the woman. Usually a man is very self-centered. They usually look at their own needs and their own desires. Sometimes men make decisions and they don't ask consent from their partner. A lot of men can be quite close-minded. So usually they're a bit closed up into having new experiences or even to collaborate in new ideas. They're quite rigid in their approach. If a woman goes through a difficult situation, say health or something like that, many of them do not have the capacity to give that woman support during difficult times. They don't realize that they need to be there. So if a woman can go to hospital, he might pass by after work, but he won't really be as caring as the woman. The woman usually would be a great nurturer. They will stick by their side and they won't let them go. Mostly there has been cases that women that were in relationships and they got sick, a lot of men can actually dump them and not be by their side during difficult times. Well, the contrary, if take for example a man, something happens bad in their health, the woman is going to stick to him by thick or thin situations. A lot of men have signs of being unreliable. They don't usually like to follow through. They don't follow through commitments. Some of them can have a lot of mood swings, even though they say that's not the case that it's women, but I say this because they're quite unpredictable emotionally. A lot of them are quite boring as people. They don't really have a lot of enthusiasm. So it's usually the woman that has all that creativity and the inspiration. A lot of them can undermine her. They can discredit her opinions or her decisions. Sometimes a woman might want to be discreet, but they lack the respect of her privacy. Many men can be quite materialistic. So usually they value possessions more than the actual relationship, because that's the way they are. So a lot of them don't appreciate them. They can be critical, we said that. A lot of them, due to their biology, they have a lot of unmanaged angry issues, and most often that can lead to aggression or shouting. And we get to see that dominance and aggression comes mostly from men. That's the higher statistics. If you were out on the street, who would you expect to come and steal you, a man or a woman? Of course, the man. Which are the people that are in prison more, men or women? Men. Who are the ones that are initiating wars? Men. Do you understand what I mean? And lots of men are blind to this truth. If it was for us women, we would be in a collaborative state to fix the world. People don't have to eat all around the world. People are in poverty. We would actually make a change to be able to help. But you see, the world is in patriarchy. We are dominated mostly by the men. Regardless if we have women that are in places right now, it's still a man-led society. A lot of men are passive-aggressive. They display a lot of hostility indirectly. We get to see that a lot. A lot of men can get highly addicted to drugs and substance abuse. So, and alcohol, of course, let's not forget that. Usually, there can be a lack of mutual respect within a relationship. And what I mean by that is that the man doesn't really respect the woman as an equal. If they were to treat her like an equal, we wouldn't have what we have nowadays with relationships. It will be shared responsibilities within them and shared love, which is not the case. Most men avoid intimacy because they don't even know what intimacy is. They're not open to intimacy, and they are so rigid, and it's so difficult for them to get vulnerable. You never get to know how they're feeling, right? And guys, I want you to realize that I'm talking about the majority of men here, right? Don't get upset if I'm triggering you. There's a lack of mutual growth in relationships. Yeah. There's so many other things. Like, I've got over 500 points here that I want to discuss, but I don't want to keep the video long. I'll come up with another video of continuation. But mostly, they're inconsiderate. They give silent treatments. They're too dominating. They have a fixed mindset. They're unattentive to her needs. They set unrealistic expectations. They're always expecting more without being realistic. They avoid physical intimacy. They blame her most of the times. They don't support her passions. They're too egotistical, and they put their pride before their relationship. They usually avoid social interactions. They don't integrate her into his social circle. They can be very ungrateful. They don't acknowledge the good things that she brings to the table. They can be too manipulative. They use guilt or other tactics to get what they want. They usually do not have a vision. They usually do not have a vision for the future. They don't usually talk about planning, and they don't talk about what's the future of the relationship. They might not even value her career. They can disregard her professional ambitions, and they can belittle her job. They usually like to make all the decisions and not involve her in making significant choices. They expect the traditional roles, right? So they might pressure a woman to fit into the traditional gender roles. They try to minimize her feelings, and anytime she speaks up of her emotions, the guy can respond that she's overreacting or she's being too sensitive. A woman is usually taking advantage of. Men can exploit her kindness, her time, and her resources, right? Without reciprocation. So a woman can be in the house all day looking after the children, needed to take a break and all of that, and men, a lot of men, do not care about that. They are unwilling and they like to take advantage of women. And they hope that women don't understand that, but if women are not understanding these things, they can't address how they're behaving. So a woman's got a responsibility to start understanding what a lot of men are all about. A lot of men are not investing in the relationship. They're not willing to spend their time. They're not willing to give money. Because if you start to calculate the amount of investment that a woman brings, it's a lot of money. To be cooking, to be cleaning, to be taking care of a man that has a lot of emotions to bring to the table. It's a lot to deal with. And the energy that a woman brings is quite a lot. But a lot of men don't want to see that. And a lot of women forget to see how much value they bring to men's lives. A lot of men can be constantly complaining. They usually can focus on the negatives without offering solutions. There's so many things here that I can discuss. So many things. They avoid counseling and therapy. They have inconsistent affection. They can use her and speak bad about her past mistakes. Men are much more immature than women, so they have a refusal to grow up. They resist responsibilities. They can constantly use sarcasm. They can be invalidating experiences. They can be not standing up for her. Public humiliation. They can lack common courtesy. They can stop saying please or thank you. What else? Some of them can avoid a family involvement. They're not willing to engage with or get to know her family or avoid events or all of that. Sometimes they are overvaluing physical intimacy, so they're reducing the relationship to just physical aspects. Sometimes they can give a woman ultimatums, forcing her to choose between him and someone or something. There have also been a lot of cases where women got pregnant and the woman wanted to keep the child, and a man in his selfish nature is using all these ultimatums that if you have this kid, forget about me. So is that coming from a place of love? I don't think so. A lot of them make empty promises. A lot of them deny her independence. A lot of them refuse to learn. They're very dismissive of her achievements. They have a general indifference towards her, and they don't really care about the relationship health. They make her feel like she's replaceable. That's how they make her feel, that he could easily find somebody else. They usually prioritize their friends. They can use their money as a control. And a lot of them can expect the woman to read his mind. And they might get upset when she doesn't instinctively know what he wants. They can hold grudges, so they might not let go of past disagreements. They can become, we said that before, being overly competitive. They can turn every interaction into a competition. He can make the relationship everything about him, so he can turn her issues or concerns to focus on his feelings. They can undermine parenting, so they might not support the decisions that a woman wants to make as a parent. They can disagree on those things and they can't find a common ground. He can be quite inflexible and might not want to adjust or compromise. If it's a disgusting man, he can be spreading rumors. He can talk negative about her behind her back. He might not value her privacy. He might not have the trait within him to encourage her, so he might not be the best motivator. Most of the times men do not motivate or don't cheer their women. They prefer to keep them small.